the time is approaching for politicians and the public to consider whether they should withdraw from using Elon Musk's X platform. Let me tell you right now, none of these losers will quit X. Will they, Chris? Jess Phillips spoke about how she was going to maybe be quitting X. She did it with a post on X.
He has allowed people, he's restored people's accounts. People like Tommy Robinson, people like Donald Trump, and many others as well, who were taken off Twitter because, let's be honest, the backroom staff at HQ Twitter back then, before he bought them out, they were left-wing people. That's what they were. We all knew
Katie
that.
Hopkins, Graham Linehan.
Dan, you were as well. You noticed, like, people, friends of ours who've had massive followings were taken off the platform immediately. They were immediately restored. You know why? Because debate is about listening to both sides of the story, not one side. And what I find, the irony of this, it makes comical, is people blocking Elon Musk. I find it absolutely hilarious. But yet they themselves remain on his platform, and some, of course, and some of them are paying, subscribing to be on there.
We're meant to have a debate. It's meant to be hopefully peaceful and reasonable and, practical, rather than yaboo and throwing rocks at each other. But blocking Elon Musk, I mean, we've had some real high-powered intellects tonight. You've had the press secretary of the US, Karine Jean-Pierre. We've talked about Alistair Campbell. I know who we're going to be talking about in the next 5-10 minutes or so. These people are largely cloth-eared, tin-eared idiots. And if they choose to leave, they won't be missed.
The other thing I want to ask you about is this hugely ridiculous reaction last night to Elon Musk's X Spaces with Donald Trump. I stayed up, Chris, to listen to it. I found it really interesting, really fascinating. It certainly wasn't extreme, like the EU warning Elon Musk about hate speech. I mean, this was just two really interesting people, very powerful men chewing the fat. I loved it. What do you make of this reaction against it?
I think it was pre-programmed, Dan. I think the reaction was already preemptively made. Personally, it is what it is, and Spaces is a good enough format, I guess. Yes, they had a few technical problems, and we'll never know whether it was a deliberate denial of service or not. But clearly, that doesn't suit the narrative of the left. They want to believe that apparently, Kamala has said she wouldn't, they couldn't handle a live stream in 2024. All the usual bile and nonsense that comes. But I think it was quite clear that what they set out to have was not an interview, but a conversation.
Yeah. As
two people would do, if you like, in the UK, in the pub, while we've still got pubs that are kept open. And in that respect, I think it worked perfectly well.
Yeah. Elon Musk isn't a journalist. He's not pretending to be a journalist. He's not trying to be a journalist. So when people were saying, he should be challenging Trump, it's like, why? He supports Trump. He's endorsed Trump. They're having a chat. Trump is constantly interviewed by journalists. It's Kamala Harris who isn't.
Well, it's interesting, isn't it, that if Trump gets the opportunity to debate Harris, and there seems to be some question over this, he will wipe the floor with her.
Yeah. Well, I think there's at least one. I think there's at least one on ABC on the 10th of September. Hopefully there'll be two more. That's what Trump wants. But Richard, I want to show you this extraordinary moment where a Washington Post reporter in the White House briefing thought the most important question of the day was about trying to take away free speech from Elon Musk and Donald Trump. Imagine being a journalist and thinking that is your duty. Watch this.
Elon Musk is slated to interview Donald Trump tonight on X. I don't know if the president is going to tune in. Feel free to say if he is or not. But I think that misinformation on Twitter is not just a campaign issue. It's a America issue. What role does the White House or the president have in sort of stopping that, or stopping the spread of that, or sort of intervening in that. Some of that was about campaign misinformation, but it's a wider thing, right?
Yeah, no, and you've heard us talk about this many times from here about the responsibilities that social media platforms have when it comes to misinformation, disinformation. Don't have anything to read out from here about specific ways that we're working on it, but we believe that they have the responsibility. These are private companies, so we're also mindful of that too. But look, it is. I think it is incredibly important to call that out as you're doing. I just don't have any specifics on what we have been doing internally as it relates to the interviews. Not something that I'm tracking, and I'm sure the president's not tracking it either.
Richard, can you believe
my
it?
first instant reaction to that, Dan, would be most of the people in the White House briefing room are probably on Twitter themselves.
Of course they are.
So they're using the platform that they themselves are decrying and saying, listen, what's happening is wrong, because it is the freedom of speech. That's what it is. You know what it's like. You can say what you want on Twitter, as long as it's not, obviously, it's not something that does incite hatred. But what's the interpretation of that law? We've seen someone get 20 months in prison for putting something on Facebook, which I think Facebook actually, in competition with Twitter, seems to be like the left on the right.
Yes.
From what I'm seeing.
Facebook deletes everything.
Yeah, well, it does. But I think the statement he made about the fact that, Elon Musk has piled into this argument. Let's just look at what he's done since he bought Twitter, right? Or now X, as it's now formerly Twitter. He has allowed people, he's restored people's accounts, people like Tommy Robinson, people like Donald Trump, and many others as well, who were taken off Twitter because, let's be honest, the backroom staff at HQ Twitter back then, before he bought them out, they were left-wing people. That's what they were. We all knew
Katie
that.
Hopkins, Graham Linehan.
Dan, you were as well. You noticed, like, people, friends of ours who've had massive followings were taken off the platform immediately. They were immediately restored. You know why? Because debate is about listening to both sides of the story, not one side. And what I find, the irony of this, it makes comical, is people blocking Elon Musk. I find it absolutely hilarious. But yet they themselves remain on his platform, and some, of course, and some of them are paying, subscribing to be on there.
Well, do all of them remain, Chris? Because The Guardian reported today, Labour MPs are quitting X, an alarm over the platform, with one saying that Elon Musk had turned it into a, quote, megaphone for foreign adversaries and far-right fringe groups. And 2 Labour MPs are known to have told colleagues they were leaving the platform. One of them, Noah Law, has disabled his account. Other MPs who still use X have begun examining alternatives, including Threads, which is owned by Facebook, and the open source platform Blue Sky. The Liverpool City Region Mayor, Steve Rotherham, has said the time is approaching for politicians and the public to consider whether they should withdraw from using Elon Musk's X platform. Let me tell you right now, none of these losers will quit X. Will they, Chris? Jess Phillips spoke about how she was going to maybe be quitting X. She did it with a post on X.
Dan, you're on fire. The intellectual heft of the people that say they're going to be leaving X is quite astounding. From the joy that is Paloma Faith right through to Jess Phillips and leftists in between. Look, as a free speech absolutist, I do not want people to leave the digital public square that is X. They can talk about Mastodon, they can talk about Threads, they can talk about all of these other alternative platforms, but there is no question about it. X is now the #1 location in the world where people get their news. It's where they have their digital public square. I want these people to stay on for the simple reason that sunlight is the best disinfectant, Dan. We've seen this now with the left for some time, that they are now deliberately trying, now that they've got all the levers of power, they are trying to do takedowns on the likes of Douglas and others, and they will continue to do so. And X gives us a platform, as well as them, to articulate the alternative view. And that's surely, in a democracy, is what we're all meant to be about. We're meant to have a debate. It's meant to be hopefully peaceful and reasonable and practical, rather than yaboo and throwing rocks at each other. But blocking Elon Musk, I mean, we've had some real high-powered intellects tonight. You've had the Press Secretary of the US, Karine Jean-Pierre. We've talked about Alistair Campbell. I know who we're going to be talking about in the next 5-10 minutes or so. These people are largely cloth-eared, tin-eared idiots. And if they choose to leave, they won't be missed.
But I've only promised to talk to you about products on this show that are actually life-changing. This one's a little bit more personal, but the fellas watching are going to completely get it. And the ladies, well, you would do well to treat your husband or boyfriend, because I can promise you from personal experience, this is a game changer. So men want a grooming routine that is one and done. The days of using the same trimmer for your face and your nether regions are over, all thanks to our friends at Manscaped. They've come up with the ultimate package to keep your hairs trimmed from 12 to 6. So introducing the Beard and Balls bundle, which features the Lawnmower 5.0 and the Beard Hedger. And I'm not talking about this sort of lawnmower, but don't worry, the product provides precision trimming for all areas, even the sensitive ones, and will get you as manicured as freshly cut grass. So I'm talking about a trimmer for the moneymaker, another for the boys downstairs, and it gets it right the first time while being gentle on the skin in all of your delicate places. With 2 interchangeable skin-safe blade heads, you can choose between a precise trim or a smooth finish. And did I mention it's waterproof, so you can chim in the shower and avoid making a mess everywhere. Perfect for those of us who appreciate efficiency. Now let me tell you about the Beard Hedger. Whether you're going for a neat stubble or a full-on lumberjack look, this trimmer has you covered. Featuring a titanium-coated stainless steel T-blade and 20 length options, you can achieve any style you want with just a twist of the zoom wheel. And just like the lawnmower, the Beard Hedger is also waterproof, so you can handle your beard grooming right in the sink or shower without worrying about water damage. With up to 60 minutes of runtime and an LED charge indicator, you'll never be caught mid-trim with a dead battery. This is genuinely, take my words for this, such a gentle product. No more cuts. You'll keep your loved one very happy. And also, it will increase your confidence too. The best news is today, huge deal, 20% off and free shipping. You just have to use the code Outspoken at manscaped.com. I'm sorry, let me repeat that. www.manscaped.com. I'm actually going to put the link in the YouTube description and also the Rumble description, so you can just head there and actually click directly on it right now. But 20% off, free shipping with the code Outspoken at manscaped.com. No more juggling multiple tools or dealing with subpar results, just efficient, effective grooming wherever you need it for the premium grooming experience. Trust Manscaped. Totally, but Richard, what I think stuns me even more is how thin-skinned the left are. Because think, we have to deal with 95% of platforms and media outlets that hate everything that we're about. Yet we go in, we continue having the argument, we continue having the discussion, even if we're beaten down, because we know that's what democracy is about, and we know that we have to keep putting forward our case. How thin-skinned are they to say, oh, we only want to be part of a platform that reflects what we think?
Well, that is not how society works, Dan, is it? Let's be honest, because if you just follow one narrative and, we're a group of people that believe in this, and we're a group of people that believe in that, there is no debate, there is no discussion. And when I was in university, one of the key things I remember, and I'm not an educated man, I'm not an intellectual, I'm a working class bloke that happened to find himself in university, luckily in Birmingham. And it was about discourse, it was about a debate, it was about different opinions. And those could be quite sometimes really strong opinions that people held. But we did it, and at the end of those debates, we would say, we agreed to disagree. That seems to have all but gone. And I think the whole idea of censorship, especially on the Twitter issue and Elon Musk and scapegoating others and blaming them for the riots, this is a deflection from the government's failure to stop the mass immigration that's coming into our country, that's putting huge pressure on our public services, on our housing, and so many other areas like the NHS, especially here in Wales as well, where I am. The nation of sanctuary as it's been declared by the Welsh government itself. And there are people, this is quite personal to me because I have family members who are homeless. One in particular that I'm looking out for at the moment. I can't get a place for him. I've spoken to the Labour MP for my constituency where I live. Can't get no housing for him. But down the road, Dan, not far from where I'm sitting right now, there is a hotel filled with asylum seekers. I'm not going to mention it. There was one, as you recall, Stradey Park Hotel here in Llanelli, where protesters were there every single day, and the Welsh government gave up in the end and they shipped them out. Now it's been turned back into a hotel, and and all those who lost their jobs, which I feel really sorry for. So all of this is the government. They are the ones who are responsible,
and we're letting
they're scapegoating on other people, and they're trying to use this idea that we're some kind of far right racist, and we're not, Dan.
No, we're letting down people like your relatives, though, Richard, because the thing is, this is only going to get worse. What Labour is going to do is they're going to shut down the Bibi Stockholm. They're going to take the illegal migrants out of hotels. But what does that mean? They're going to be everywhere. They're going to be in every community. They're going to be taking housing from British people. This is a nightmare. And remember, 700 arrivals just across the channel on Sunday alone. That doesn't take into account the thousands and thousands that are arriving via trucks. Now, that happens. We just don't see it. So I think this is a huge issue. But look, I want to talk politically very quickly about this awful race to become the Conservative Party leader. Totally uninspiring. But Kemi Badenoch, who is the front runner, according to The Sun today, has been exposed as someone who is pushing for mass legal migration. Now, they have uncovered a previously unseen, or at least unreported on, 2018 speech in the House of Commons. Watch this.
Kemi Badenoch.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As a first-generation immigrant, can I welcome the Home Secretary's statement, which I feel this immigration white paper is a move from the 20th century to a much better future immigration system. In particular, I'd like to thank the Home Secretary for removing the annual limits on work visas and also on international students, both of which I lobbied for on behalf of the Wellcome Sanger Institute and Anglia Ruskin University, which serve my constituency. Could he elaborate on how removing the work visa cap in particular will give business certainty?
Chris, you know my views on Kemi Badenoch. Yet again, she's been exposed. Chris, she's just a vessel. She's an empty vessel, and she does whatever Michael Gove tells her to do at the time.
Dan, it's nice to see that the MSM still have the capability to keep the receipts. This is not new news, right? Kemi Badenoch is a chocolate fireguard, and I make no apologies for that. I think when she ran a couple of years ago, very little was known about her, and she did very well in the contest. But now that, Nadine Dorries, for example, has really exposed Kemi for what she is. And Richard's point a few minutes ago is on the money. We can talk all day about illegal immigration, Dan, and the issue of the boats and lorries and this, that, and the other. But the reality is 96% of all immigration to this country is so-called legal immigration as a result of the granting of visas. That is insane. So the 2.5 million people that have come to this country over the last 2 years, the vast majority of those are so-called legal migrants. It's madness. We are ruining our infrastructure. We are destroying our public services from within, regardless of assimilation and cultural issues. Now, to come back to your point about the Conservative Party leadership contest, as far as I'm concerned, I don't care who wins, because they are an irrelevance. They have already shown a total lack of leadership in relation to the disturbances from Hare Hills all the way through to Southport and stopping everywhere in between. Very few of them have actually spoken up and said anything, and what they do have to say is mealy-mouthed. Until they begin to reconnect with the British people and understand the legitimate concerns of the white working and middle class people in this country, not just white, but anybody that has an opposing view to more immigration, more multiculturalism, they are a dead duck. And there is every chance that the Conservative Party can continue to go down rather than up for the foreseeable future.
Well, I think that's possible, Richard Taylor, when you have Reform UK in Parliament providing opposition from the right.
Yes, certainly. I take Chris is spot on what you just said there. I tweeted earlier, actually, is anybody interested in the Conservative Party leadership? Because it seems to be like no one's interested in whatsoever. They got wiped out completely for the simple reason, Dan, and I go back to this, and I'm a pro-Brexiteer, and I did it for one reason, but we didn't leave Brexit completely because we left one foot in. Take the ECHR, for example, which doesn't allow us under those laws to do what we need to do to bring migration into control. And as a result of that, we had a government that failed, and people saw that, and they voted with their feet, and they voted elsewhere. That is the reason why the Conservative Party were wiped out in the elections and give Labour a massive majority for the simple reason that the Conservative Party, who promised to deliver Brexit, went through so many prime ministers, so many chancellors, there's so many different offices, I can't even name them all. And yet they still did not deliver for the people. And I see on the screen here now, your viewers are watching it. He did an interview, I think it was today. Even his backdrop, the optics are awful. He had a paper brown bag behind him, for goodness sake. They can't even get that right. It's ridiculous. The reality is...
And of course, the only one... in those contenders is Suella Braverman, who wanted to leave the ECHR, and she's out.
Yeah, but on Kemi, as you mentioned, none of these excite the nation. They're not giving out any charismatic vibes. One thing I'll say about Boris, right? I know he was a disaster in my opinion in some terms, but he was an election winner. He had charisma. He had something about him. He didn't deliver what I voted for. I know that, and for that I'm upset about it. But he's gone. But the reality is, I think what we're going to see in the next 5 years is a Labour government that's going to take us further down this rabbit hole of censorship, North Koreaism. We're going to see a clampdown on everything from social media to independent journalists and everything else. That's what they're trying. They're trying to control the masses. That's what they're trying to do, using fear tactics and stirring up all the kind of hatred. It's not the far right. This idea of far right and left right. It really. I don't know about you, Dan or Chris. It really winds me up.
Oh yeah.
It's about what's right and what's wrong.
Totally.
Those are the issues. What's more
it's
right?
ludicrous. And at some point, actually, it may become time to reclaim that term, because actually the way that they are using it is so inaccurate. But look, what a brilliant superstar panel today. Thank you so much to Welsh political commentator Richard Taylor and the founder of True Conservative Media, Chris Davies. Great to have you both. Hope to speak to you very soon. Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please do subscribe if you want lots more clips and interviews like that. Plus, if you want to watch our totally uncensored after show, then visit www.outspoken.live.